The Senate chamber was buzzing with subdued tension as Senator JD Vance leaned into the microphone. Cameras rolled, reporters scribbled furiously, and even the typically unflappable Jerome Powell shifted slightly in his seat. The Senate Banking Committee hearing had begun like any other, but no one expected the ambush that was coming. "Mr. Chairman," Vance said calmly, "can you walk us through the exact rationale for the $2.5 billion renovation of the Federal Reserve's Eccles building?" Powell blinked. "Of course, Senator. The renovation is a long-planned infrastructure upgrade, modernization, sustainability compliance, structural integrity." Vance raised a brow and interrupted, "Is that why you're spending $250,000 on customized walnut paneling for just one conference room?" The room went still. Powell opened his mouth but hesitated. JD Vance wasn't done. "Let me read a few more line items from the internal documents obtained by my office. $4.1 million for executive wellness features, which include infrared saunas and vibration therapy rooms. $800,000 for aesthetic green walls, basically decorative plants. $13 million for heritage marble, flown in from Italy. And my personal favorite, $900,000 for custom executive chairs, hand-stitched in Belgium." The chamber erupted in gasps. A few senators turned visibly red. CSPAN's feed lit up across social media. Powell, usually stoic, tightened his jaw. Vance leaned forward. "The American people are fighting to pay their rent, buy groceries, and cover skyrocketing mortgage rates, all while you're sitting atop a multi-billion-dollar palace upgrade that looks more like Versailles than Washington." Powell attempted a response. "Senator, much of that budget is allocated over several years and includes inflation-adjusted costs, not all of which reflect direct spending. The building is over 90 years old. Respectfully, Mr. Chairman," Vance cut in again, "when people say the system is rigged for elites, this is exactly what they mean. While average Americans can't even dream of affording a home, the Federal Reserve is installing mood lighting and eucalyptus-scented meditation pods in your offices." Powell sighed. "We are the central bank of the United States. The integrity of our operations is not built on luxury furniture," Vance snapped back. "It's built on public trust, and right now that trust is cracking under the weight of this extravagance." The tension in the room was electric. Even members of Powell's usual allies on the committee were looking at their notes, avoiding eye contact. Senator Elizabeth Warren scribbled something down with an unmistakable frown. Senator Kennedy gave a low whistle, and across social media, the term #FedPalace was already trending. A staffer behind Vance handed him another sheet of paper. He glanced at it, lips tightening. "Oh, and we just confirmed that over $50 million is budgeted for executive transition lounges on the top floor, basically a luxury sky bar with panoramic views, exclusively for high-level Fed staff. Would you like to explain that one too, Mr. Powell?" Powell's voice was quieter now. "We can submit a detailed response for the record." JD Vance didn't smile. He wasn't grandstanding, he was deadly serious. "Chairman Powell, while the Fed raises rates, crushes homebuyers, and demands fiscal discipline from Congress, it's secretly greenlighting the kind of expenses that would make a Saudi prince blush." He let the words hang in the air. "The American people are watching. And we intend to hold you accountable." Outside the chamber, journalists were already swarming. What began as a routine hearing had just turned into a national scandal. By the following morning, every major network had picked up the clip. JD Vance's fiery takedown of Jerome Powell was running on repeat across CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and social media platforms. $2.5 billion Fed renovation scandal, headlines blazed across newspapers. Even Good Morning America dedicated a segment to the luxury spa palace, hidden within America's most powerful financial institution. Meanwhile, Chairman Jerome Powell was attempting damage control. In a hastily arranged press briefing, Powell appeared before reporters, flanked by two stony-faced Fed communications aides. "Let me be clear," he began, "the renovation was proposed under multiple administrations and approved through the proper budgetary channels." But the reporters weren't buying it. "Mr. Chairman, are you denying the existence of an $800,000 plant wall?" One shouted. Another followed quickly. "Is it true there's a $3 million soundproof relaxation chamber built next to your private office?" Powell hesitated. Certain features were recommended by architectural consultants to reduce stress for high-level decision makers. That was all anyone needed. Within hours, #relaxation chamber was trending alongside #FedPalace and #sauna scandal. Back in Ohio, JD Vance held a town hall meeting in Cincinnati where he addressed a packed crowd of angry voters. While the Fed was hiking interest rates and crushing small business loans, they were sipping imported sparkling water under hand-blown glass chandeliers. "Let that sink in," he said, to thunderous applause. He continued, "This isn't about party lines. This is about respect. Respect for taxpayers, respect for struggling families, and respect for a system that's supposed to serve, not exploit." The crowd erupted. One woman stood up and shouted, "You tell him, JD." In Washington, bipartisan anger was now brewing. Senator John Tester, a Democrat from Montana, issued a blunt statement: "If this report is true, the Fed needs to be audited line by line." Even progressive voices like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "Luxury saunas while families are evicted. Unacceptable." By Friday, the Senate Banking Committee had issued a subpoena for full internal documentation on the Eccles building renovation, including all contractor bids, purchase receipts, and internal emails. Behind closed doors, Fed staff were in full-blown panic mode. Leaked messages revealed frantic threads among Powell's aides, with one writing, "Kill the Sky Lounge, kill it now, optics are nuclear." Inside the Eccles building, contractors began removing branding signs, pausing deliveries, and reevaluating designs. One insider told a reporter anonymously, they were preparing to install a marble koi pond in the West Atrium. "That's scrapped now." Vance, meanwhile, was already one step ahead. He introduced a bill titled the Fiscal Accountability in Federal Infrastructure Act, which would force all government building projects exceeding $100 million to undergo an independent audit before funds could be released. "The Fed doesn't get to act like a monarchy," he told reporters on Capitol Hill. "We're not going to allow the American economy to be run from a gilded meditation lounge." When Powell returned to the Hill the following week for an emergency hearing, the mood was unforgiving. JD Vance opened the session with a blistering statement: "The American people deserve a central bank that's focused on financial stability, not Finnish spas and Belgian chairs." This time, Powell had no counterattack, only a weary sigh and a promise to review all expenditures and work with oversight committees. But it was too late. What had begun as a quiet renovation project turned into a full-blown political firestorm. Trust in the Fed had taken a seismic hit, and JD Vance emerged as the unlikely slayer of the ivory tower elite. As the hearing closed, cameras caught Vance tucking away his notes, calm and composed. Reporters swarmed, but he only offered one line before exiting. Where it all truly began unraveling wasn't in the Senate chamber, it was deep inside the Eccles building's executive design suite. That's where JD Vance's team had found the first breadcrumb, a leaked procurement request for custom European sensory therapy pods, listed under a vague line item, executive contemplative space enhancements. That document triggered a quiet but focused investigation, and what followed was months of digging. The real shock wasn't just how much was being spent, it was where the money was going and why. Buried in thousands of pages of invoices and renovation planning memos were signs of something much more systemic. For example, one receipt showed $2.1 million wired to a boutique design firm in Copenhagen for Heritage Visual Cohesion Consulting. Another showed $645,000 allocated to a light philosophy architect, based in Zurich, who was contracted to optimize emotional movement patterns through corridor geometry. These weren't just minor excesses, this was elite indulgence disguised as bureaucratic necessity. Where taxpayer money should have gone, toward economic research, public lending programs, or modernizing financial data systems, it was instead being funneled into atmospheric light installations, rare woods, and imported stone surfaces. One internal memo, stamped "confidential," spelled it out more clearly than anything else. It read, "The upgraded executive wing must reflect the authority, dignity, and global prestige of the Federal Reserve. Ambience matters." That's where JD Vance saw red. "Ambience matters," he repeated during a radio interview with a sharp laugh. Try telling that to a single mom in Cleveland getting denied a mortgage at 7.5% interest. Tell her she can't buy a home, but Powell needs a global prestige sauna to manage inflation. Where the Fed had once projected itself as an apolitical guardian of economic stability, it now looked like a disconnected fortress of luxury. The Eccles building, once stoic and bureaucratic, had become the symbol of elite privilege, and JD Vance knew exactly how to weaponize that imagery. During one of his speeches on the Senate floor, he pulled out a photo. It was a rendering from the renovation plans. "This," he said, holding it up, is the meditation chamber plan for the 6th floor. Leather loungers, ambient waterfall wall, aromatherapy dispensers, and yes, Japanese bonsai art valued at $150,000. He stared out across the chamber. Where was